Oh, we do have the Hindenburg here behind me. If you're watching on the video feed here, that is behind me is the epitome of a disaster, except in the eyes of baseball writers whose self-important, self-flagellating ways have the Hall of Fame vote being discussed as if it's something that affects all of humanity. Oh, the humanity, as they said when this thing was going down. This was from Tim Kirkjian of ESPN earlier today on TV. We need a nationwide discussion about what the heck we're going to do. Nationwide discussion. I get it. There's a Hall of Fame. Who gets in, who doesn't get in is important, but it's not that important. These people, they put out these witch hunts for out of the hundreds and hundreds of voters that do this, for people who don't vote the way they want. They find their names. They find out who they are. It's a vote. It's a vote. If you don't want to have a voting system, don't vote. If you don't want to have a democracy, on the broader sense, then find out whoever it was that voted for Barney the dinosaur for President of the United States, go to his house and have him drawn and quartered. Otherwise, it's just, it's the Hall of Fame. It's not the end of the world. What really matters are the results. Here, a little bit ago, the results moved that, looking here, it's Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and Frank Thomas. Craig Biggio missed by a little bit, and of course, all the national guys are freaking out. Oh, Craig Biggio missed just barely. Oh, I feel so bad for Craig Biggio because Craig Biggio only made $150 million over the course of his career with the Astros. It's not that big a deal. We make it sound like it's some big moral thing, and I'm already tired of talking about it. I want to take your calls in the first segment of this show. That's right. I want you to call me. The number is 412-320-7925. It doesn't have to be about this. It can be about anything at all. We've obviously got a lot of Penguins to talk about. We got Steelers. The Pirates are in mini camp right now. Pitt is off to a terrific start in the ACC basketball. Call me about anything at all that you want, and we're going to begin with Steve and Elizabeth. Steve, how are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
All right. Fired up, as you can tell.
Hey, I can tell. Hey, I'm going to go unpopular here, but I'm going to make a case against James Neal being selected to Team Canada.
Oh, okay. Let's hear that.
Now, I'm a huge Pens fan, and
No, that's fine.
He's a great player.
Go ahead.
I kind of look at James Neal in the same light that, the reason why Bobby Ryan got left off of Team USA, and that's also an unpopular pick. But it stands to reason that the two top right wings for Canada are going to be Stamkos and Corey Perry. Those are two pretty good guys.
Yep.
And Stamkos is, the best North American sniper. James Neal is probably second behind.
No question.
Corey Perry has an absolute chemistry with
Corey Perry. Absolutely. I agree with you. Go ahead.
Getzlaf. But if you drop Neal to the third or fourth line, he's not a great skater.
He isn't?
He's not a tremendous two-way player. So now you get into...
Well, hang on, Steve.
Or are you looking to put the best team on the ice where... a Patrice Bergeron has a value infinitely higher on a third or fourth line than James Neal does. I understand it's still about putting pucks in nets and everything else, but to me, I don't even think, with a few injuries, I don't even think he's one of the next few guys. I think St. Louis or Claude Giroux would be next up in line.
Well, I appreciate the call, Steve. I'm going to differ with you, first of all, very strongly on one point. James Neal is a terrific skater. Don't be confused just because he's a big guy that he can't skate. The guy can cover a ton of ground. He's also a pretty good back checker. I understand what you're saying as far as top six. If you were making an NHL-type roster or line alignment, that's the way you'd be thinking. If you look at Team Canada's roster, it's not made up like that, Steve. It isn't. It just isn't. They basically created an all-star team. The people that you're talking about having James Neal jump aren't the top two right wingers. They aren't Steven Stamkos. They aren't Corey Perry. It's Rick Nash. It's Rick bleeping Nash, who has done nothing for the Rangers, who has done nothing of significance in big games in his career. If you're going to have a debate about whether or not James Neal should be on that roster, you have to look at the roster as they put it together. And he absolutely, unequivocally should be in that context. Although I will agree with another point that you made, that Marty St. Louis is a very deserving candidate, and on a big rink could really help them out. Let's go to Sean in Kansas. How are you, Sean?
Good. How are you, Dejan?
All right.
Good. Well, I just you guys just touched a little bit on U.S. Olympic hockey there. I was going to maybe change the subject. That's what my previous question was going to be. Maybe I'll just talk about the Penguins here, and if you think there's any needs going into the playoffs, or, I mean, do they need to get bigger, tougher? Do they need an enforcer? Do you think they need a solid backup if Fleury goes down?
Well, I appreciate the call, Sean. I'm going to say that I think the Penguins need to get bigger and stronger on the third and fourth lines. They're doing a lot of winning, to their credit. I wrote a column the other day urging people to appreciate that. I don't get the sense around here that people are as excited as you might think that they would be for a 32-12-1 team. And all they do is win. And they've done it through a lot of injuries. But that's not to suggest they've got a perfect roster by any stretch of the imagination. Craig Adams, I don't care if this sounds mean, looks like a player who's done or close to done, doesn't he? And I think that's something that the Penguins need to be aware of and concerned about. Having a fourth line where you basically just hodgepodge Craig Adams and move Derek Engelland up and other stuff like that, that's not a solution. That's not a long-term solution. On the bright side, getting third and fourth liners is much easier for a GM to do than going out and getting top six guys. So Ray Shero has a little bit of a blessing in that regard, especially if Brian Gibbons can continue to do the job on the first line. Bo Bennett's going to come back, you'd think, at some point. But it's going to be it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for Shero to fill those last two spots out. There's no question he has to do that. Let's go to John in his car. Hi, John, in your car.
Hi, Dejan. Yes, I'm in my car just north of Marietta, Ohio, on my way to Beavertown, Ohio.
There you go. What's going on?
I just wanted to make sure your listeners were aware of Point Park University's ladies basketball team is 14-0 and 18th ranked in the nation.
I will bet that they were not, John. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that they were not.
That's why I called. try to start paying attention and check them out now that they play their home games on West Mifflin at CCAC's campus there. You get all that information on their website.
I appreciate that, John. You are Point Park University women's basketball's best friend. Point Park has an ambitious athletics program at their lower level here, and I'm never shy about talking about stuff like that. We talk about all different kinds of topics here. We're going to be going now to. This is Jeremy in Boston. Jeremy in Boston, how are you?
How's it going, Dejan?
All right.
Hey, I saw your tweet yesterday about calling in, so I made sure to call in.
And I love you for that. And the number, if you can hang on for 1 second, Jeremy, because I want more people to call in. It's 412-320-7925. If you didn't get it the first time, I'm going to say it again slower. 412-320-7925. And I appreciate it, Jeremy. What's on your mind?
Hey, just thinking about Pitt football, and everyone's going crazy because we went to the Little Caesars Bowl, and I'm just, kind of sick of the mediocrity and being happy with sort of barely making it. I mean, we've pretty much been the same team for about 10 years now, and I don't think the program's on an upswing at all.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Down. We're losing, hometown recruits. We're losing the best of the best from around here, whether it be Drayvon Henry or whoever. And I think, the Pitt fan base we're just satisfied with that, and I think it's ridiculous.
Well, Jeremy, let me ask you a question. Okay?
Yeah.
We're looking at, first of all, Pitt's recruiting. They have lost a couple of big guys. They also got a great wide receiver in Adonis Jennings from Florida. Could be a good bookend. And people are saying that Pitt could have one of the better offenses in the country next year. Defensively, they've obviously got a long way to go. What I want to ask you is, how do you feel in general about Pitt being in the ACC after what you've seen over the last couple of weeks in bowl games, seeing Florida State win a championship, seeing Clemson beat Ohio State? Do you feel better about Pitt being in that conference than you might have a year ago?
I think Pitt moving to the ACC was the best move they ever did.
Did you think that a year ago?
Yes, I did.
Come on.
a weak, terrible conference to be in, and we couldn't be protected in that conference anymore.
Well, that's obvious. That's obvious. But when you saw West Virginia going to the Big 12, did you think, wow, that could have been Pitt?
No, I didn't really like. Well, yeah, I mean, I like the move. I think the Big East is just a terrible football conference, and I think the ACC is going to make us recruit better because we can't get by with 2-star recruits anymore because we're not playing, Cal U anymore. We're playing real teams.